The Maroon White Pod brought to you by CityLink. For bookings, timetables, updates and any other information, head to citylink.ie. Welcome along to the Maroon White Pod. It's quarter-final time for Galway. They advanced over Monaghan at the weekend, a 3-point victory in the end, and they're in the quarter-final, and that's the main thing. I'm delighted now to be joined by former Galway under-20 football manager Donal Ó Fátharta to look back on Galway's victory over Monaghan at the weekend. Donal, firstly, I suppose after last year getting knocked out at this stage, just vital to get over Monaghan at the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't a pretty tie or anything like that, but it was job done for Porrick and the boys, and that's the important thing, because coming out of that Armagh game, especially after, I suppose, the scars of last year, and all the chat around it being an easy game and stuff like that. Of course, it's never is. And that talk is not helpful. I know from a management perspective, it's definitely not helpful because it gets into the guys' minds. But look at the boys. I think are matured over the last 4 or 5 years now, and anyway, so there was never going to be a problem probably getting over the line, but it was going to be sticky, and it was sticky, and there were times there that I suppose we were under the cosh a little bit, but with the weather conditions and everything, I think the second half performance was fantastic. The control, because at half time it was, Monaghan are good players, we know that, so it was in the melt pot a little bit, but good to come through, and looking forward to Dublin now, I suppose, in a few days' time.
Yeah, conditions definitely played a part at the weekend.
They did. It was sloppy, and look at coming out of that Armagh game, the quick turnaround, and after playing so well against Armagh, you're going to be a small bit deflated. You know what I mean? Because all the chat was about getting through to the quarterfinals and how important it was. So there's going to be, a little bit of down after that, and it's difficult to turn that around. And Galway did turn it around. That shows, in my opinion, their maturity at this stage. Of the progress in the panel, that it is a mature panel at this stage. Even some of the younger guys that are there, regarded as younger guys, would have 2 or 3 years under their belt now. So it was a mature performance, workmanlike performance, but that's what was required, and they got the job done. It was good finish in the second half.
What was the biggest positive out of the performance for you?
I suppose it was you could look at the negatives all right, but the positives was the likes of Paul Conroy, John Maher for me, again, legs around the middle. That was very, very positive. Rob Finnerty, I thought with the strapping up in Armagh, I said, Jesus, this guy, you know what I mean, is under pressure. But I thought he played well again. It wasn't a forwards game, but he was lively. And he seems to be kind of, playing well. I thought after the injury maybe that there might be a bit of a hangover or anything like that, but it wasn't. It was just the control in the performance, and kind of, especially in the second half, to come out, against the wind there, and they control the game. Now look at Monaghan got chances and they had the crossbar and all that sort of stuff, but Galway were in control for a lot of that game. Similar to Armagh, I thought the same thing, the control up there, and that to me shows a sign of maturity in the guys, and the leaders on the pitch are obviously dictating that, along with the management, obviously. But look at there's a sense of maturity that has, I think, been brought for the last 4 or 5 years, is something that I think that will be important obviously on Saturday evening against the Dubs, that we could bring that sort of composure and, you know what I mean, I suppose the game, managing the game as best we can on Saturday would be important. So that, to me, that maturity, I think, is coming to the fore.
Why do you think we struggled in the opening half then?
Well, it's a bit of a hangover maybe, but you're going to struggle. You see, people think that it's a matter of turning up. You still have to do the fundamentals. You still have to, and the players are not robots. They're, you know what I mean. That things get into their head, and they're, play bad at sometimes, play good other times. It's trying to bottle that, and you know what I mean, and keep it going. And the mental aspect of that is very, very important. So I'm not sure. Like we talk about our own team a little bit too much. We have to give Monaghan respect because of the quality of their players as well, and the conditions and stuff like that, and potential banana for Galway. And if you're a Monaghan, if you have Vinny Corey coming into that game, sure, it's ideal. Sure, it's
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming in there. There's nothing to lose, stuff like that, with a good panel of players. So so that was always going to happen. So Galway with a few mistakes and handling errors and stuff like that. Maybe weren't to the pitch of it at the beginning, but that's what sport is about. You dust yourself down, you readjust, especially within games. It's important, to be able to do that. And I think Galway can do that now. And that's the maturity I kind of touched on there. I think they're able to do that. They're able to reassess. They can go in at half time or even during games and do that. There is no panic, and that what I mean. That's needed at this level, especially as we go to quarterfinals now, because that maturity and that level of performance. What I mean. Obviously, in the first half or the first, I suppose the first 2/3 of the half, maybe what I mean. That won't be probably good enough against better teams, maybe. We can argue that point. So that's what the boys will be talking about, I'm sure, this week, and trying to work on that.
It was really big, 5-3 on 32 minutes. Monaghan are leading, and maybe we were kind of getting a small bit concerned. But I suppose you talk about maturity to finish the first half with the last three scores was huge there.
The first or the finish was good with Paul, and I think Rob was lively as well in and around there, and what I mean. That was good. But you need what's on any particular day. Anybody tell you there'll be certain players that'll play well, and others mightn't be so play so well. So look, you need a couple of guys to really kind of take it by the scruff of the neck. They did that in the last few minutes, and that was vital because that gave them a little bit of a lift going into half time to reassess and what I mean, and do what they did in the second half. So, but that's not easy either. It's easy to win and talk and say what but the players have to go out and do it, and they did that. So yeah, the final was a 4 or 5 minutes there. I think it was definitely kind of, and it was supposed to have to stuff a little bit out of Monaghan as well, maybe. So yeah, that was important to go in at half time and give them something to work on.
You talked there about Monaghan, and I suppose the commentary would be that maybe Galway weren't good enough in that first half. But in fairness to Monaghan, they had a game plan, they stuck to it, they played with huge numbers behind the ball. It was kind of evident when Conor McManus was named to start, and he didn't start the way they were going to set up and make it difficult for Galway.
Yeah, again, I think Galway are getting better are better at that and very good at that now, breaking teams down. And because in Galway, I think anyway, we've all our footballers are very, very comfortable on the ball, and that's not an issue to us, I think, anymore. What I mean? That maturity again is there now. So Monaghan gave us a lot of the ball, so it was only a matter of time, I think, before we picked them off. But again, with conditions and stuff like that, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So yeah, they were always going to be defensive. Probably a different game maybe on Saturday now. Probably a little bit more open. So it'll be a different challenge on Saturday against Dublin. But definitely, I think Galway, the control they had in the second half, especially against Monaghan, and definitely for, what was it, 50, 55 minutes against Armagh, I think that control is a part of Galway's game that makes them, obviously contenders to win All Ireland, because they have that, way of playing and can, play against northern teams or the kind of blanket defence sort of stuff, and they can go toe to toe with Kerry's and Dublin's hopefully on Saturday as well. So yeah, look at I think we're in a good place at the minute.
That control has been really impressive. We've seen it first 56 minutes against Armagh. It's probably one of our most controlled performances. You're obviously involved with the development panels, and obviously the development panel worked close with the seniors at the start of the year, given all the injuries they had. But where do you think this controlled game has, I suppose, developed and evolved to where we're at now?
Look, we've good footballers. I think we have a good management team behind them. So again, it comes with practice, and we're a few years on the road now as well. With Boric and his management team, and quality. We always have quality players in Galway. You know what I mean? Again, in my opinion, I suppose, with the maroon glasses on. So look, it takes time to evolve. Any team takes time to evolve, and we're always, as I said, looking at ourselves. But other teams are doing the same thing. So it's pretty competitive out there. You know what I mean? There are no guarantees. So it's the same messages I'm sure Porrick has been saying, and Neil and these guys, and telling them for the last 4 or 5 years. But it's a matter of just guys, coming in and out, and different guys coming in. I think at the minute our panel is very, very strong. I think there are a number of guys there that can come on, as we've seen with, as I was saying, you wouldn't expect us to go up and control that match against Armagh without the likes of Johnny Heaney and John Daly and these guys, and Damien Gomer actually not playing. If you said that 12 months ago, people would laugh at you. So those are the signs that I would be looking for of guys coming in, like the Sean Mulcairns coming in the last day or the last couple of games and playing so well, seamlessly, and guys coming off the bench making mistakes and making good stuff and bad stuff. That's the nature of it. So you learn. There's learnings every day go out, and I think guys are learning every day. You know what I mean? And they seem to be able to, I suppose, forget the bad stuff and then get on with the next game. And that's what the system, I suppose, at the minute helps that, because games are coming thick and fast. So, there's a mental aspect maybe. The guys are becoming mentally stronger. But definitely they've a good management team behind them. So, what I mean, that helps as well.
Just Sean Mulcairn there, when you talk about how he's fitted in seamlessly, and it's credit to him because it was so tough to come back after that injury for him. But since he's come in, like, from a defensive perspective, but even from an attacking perspective too, like he's been a huge threat. Even maybe he's not getting on the ball, but he's finishing those rounds.
Yeah. I look at Sean, Sean for a good while now. He is a fantastic player and offers so much to any team. And one of the big things Sean Mulcairn will give you, he'll give you energy in defence and in attack. And that in the modern game, I think, is very, very important. He can break lines. Sean finishes out runs, you know what I mean? And he'll get back and he'll be hassling and harrying and all that sort of stuff as well. So Sean gives you a lot, in my opinion. And I'm delighted that, again, after the injuries and stuff, that he's done well. But he'll give you the lines with Dylan McHugh and Liam Silk as well around there. Again, a half-back line, in my opinion, is so important to any team to break lines and, get those runners off the shoulder, all that sort of stuff. So, look, he offers that, and he offers a lot of energy around there. And he's a bright, intelligent footballer as well. His positioning is fantastic. So, look, I'd have no problem with Sean. Well, I wouldn't. And he was Sean Mulcairn playing for Galway. It was only a matter of getting him back on the pitch and getting him injury-free again, So, definitely I'm delighted that it's come, quick for him,
Just with that, it's nearly on the podcast. We think we have everyone fit, and then one more person gets an injury. It's obviously there's going to be, the rumor mill is going to go around this week. There's going to be, I'm sure everyone's going to have different opinions on what Shane Walsh's injury exactly is, but there's going to be a lot of Galway fans praying this week that he's fit for Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, in fairness, we've had our fair share of between long terms and niggles and guys going off and maybe not training as well and all that sort of stuff. Look at Shane. You don't need to tell me Shane is so important to Galway, and we're hoping this week that he can hopefully be okay. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything myself now of what's going on, but look at it. It's important. Again, back to the panel against Dublin. You're going to need a strong panel. Dublin down the finishing stretch. You know what I mean? The energy levels after the last 3 weeks, or it'll be our third week in a row now playing stuff like that. There's so many things. And that's, I suppose, the challenge to the players and to Pádraig, is to try and get that right, whether he's, thinking about his finishing team as who's going to be there at 55, 56 minutes, starting strong and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Those are the challenges as a management. Those are the challenges for the players to be mentally right coming in or starting or whatever the case may be. We have, in my opinion, 23, 24 players that I've seen all year that would have no problem in starting and finishing and all that sort of stuff. But it's to get it, yourself with the dub. You got to get it right for Saturday. It has to be almost perfect for Saturday to get that right. So look at hoping that Shane will be okay, and obviously Damo looked okay, I think, when he came in the last day. But again, Croke Park is a different challenge. You know what I mean? It's a 70, 75 minutes or whatever of will Damo be able to last that with Chaine, stuff like that. So that's the challenges to Pádraig and the boys to try and ensure their heads are scratching all week, and they'll try and figure that out as best they can. But look, it's a judgment call at the end of the day. You go with your gut and have a plan and see how it works out,
Do you see them risking Shane if he's 80% this weekend?
I don't know. I don't think it comes down to just is he in or out. I think you have to look at the whole picture, as I mentioned there, and the whole picture won't be for me or you to know or anything like that, but it'll be for management and players to discuss, and they will come up with whatever plan, I'm sure, by they give them time the Thursday and Friday, and then they'll meet and they'll go through probably with individual players of how they want to see the game panning out, and then picking accordingly depending on obviously the state of injuries and all that sort of stuff. Because this is a different one to a maybe a lesser team. When you're talking about Dublin, you really need to get your quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, and you try and get, not that you have that much control as a management, but you definitely have to try and, break it down to those quarters and see how you can, because yourself with the Dubs in quarter three, or, they usually are, that's what they say, isn't it? They push on and, they finish strong and stuff like that, and getting goals or, stuff like that's going to be important. So many things that you really have to try and work on. And it's difficult, in the short turnaround as well. We knew yesterday morning that we had Dublin. So look, it's a challenge for management. It's a pity, obviously, that it wasn't another week to prepare and stuff like that. But look, again, we spoke there about the maturity of the group and all that. So they'll know straight away, and they'll whatever about the draw and how good or how hard it was. It definitely will focus the mind of players and management, because you need to be right against Dublin. There'll be no kind of 60-70% performance. They'll need to get a lot of things right between kickouts and Cluxton kickouts, stuff like that. But so look, there's a lot of variables. We wouldn't have time to go into it now, but it's a big challenge for the players and management for Saturday.
Was the most impressive thing from the Monaghan game the 4 points Robert Finnerty kicked in the second half? Because it just seemed to be the game management was there, and it just seemed really impressive how Galway in that period, when he got the 4 crucial scores, that it really was the difference.
Yeah, it was. For me, Paul Conroy's kicks were the most impressive, because they weren't easy kicks, especially the one in the second half there, the way he brought it in. Because when you get long range kicks like that, that's a real, for me, it's an important kick, and you're kind of almost set in structure already. It's not, you know what I mean? Everyone's out the field almost, or those are big kicks. So Paul's and Rob. Look, Rob is playing well. I'm not sure if he's probably is, but he's probably our top scorer, maybe, or near enough to it, all year, and he will be vital, because the open spaces of Croke Park, you know what I mean, are places where he dreams of playing, I'm sure. So he's vital. But look, we could go through every player and have a conversation about them. It'll be the collective, obviously, as we spoke about there, the collective on Saturday in relation to different aspects of the game. You know what I mean? Because Dublin will be relentless. You won't have time. You won't have time to be kind of thinking. You need to, as we said, break it down into compartments or whatever, to make sure that guys are right. You know what I mean? Get guys around the middle, the runners and all that sort of stuff. Structure will be so important when we don't have the ball the next day, because if we're opened, and we have been opened once or twice against Monaghan now, and Armagh, in fairness, had a few wides. I know we played well and all that. They did a few wides in the first half, and got in for the goals and stuff like that. So we need to be flawless, you know what I mean, as much as we can on Saturday in relation to that. But Rob Finnerty, obviously is in form. And a Rob Finnerty in form is a dangerous animal, so he'll need watching. You know what I mean? If we had Chaine there, obviously, and Damo, at full pelt, those three need watching. And Dublin defensively, if you're going to pick on Dublin, but defensively, that's where we can get at Dublin, in my opinion. You know what I mean? They give you chances. They're honest. You know what I mean? They give you plenty of chances if we move the ball quick, if we move with Croke Park and kicking and moving it with the foot a lot quicker. I think we can give Dublin a lot of problems. But again, a lot of variables. That's only one part of it. There's loads of parts and components to it. But hopefully, we live in hope, Paul. Always live in hope.
Just finally, then, on Sunday, before we just briefly touch on Dublin before I finish, we talked about Rob and Sean Mulcairn. Paul Conroy was obviously unbelievable on Saturday. He's definitely one of the most underappreciated Galway footballers anyways. And with that, Killian McDade really kind of looked back to his best in the second half when he ran down the left wing, won a crucial free there. John Maher was just, again, a lot of the dirty work.
Yeah. Again, legs around the middle are important, and it's great to see Killian back again. And when he come out around and kind of moving the ball forward, they did that well, and he had another game under his belt. So again, he's getting fitter and hopefully progressing and getting better and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, definitely. But again, there's this guy. We have a strong bench as well. Whatever team Port goes for, what they start with and finish, I honestly think we have, and that will be important this week. We've touched on it already, to really get the group buying into whatever plan they come up with, or whatever system as regards players starting and not starting and stuff like that. That is important the next day, because when I suppose the Armagh game more so, the last day subs coming, our own Liam O'Conneilla, who is blossoming all year and making an impact every time he's the likes of him coming in, his first year on the panel, stuff like that, or first kind of full year.
How important is that for Liam's development to get a game like that
Oh,
on Saturday?
Liam is a fantastic player. Liam will be playing regular, in my opinion. Once he gets up to speed in a couple of years' time, I would see him as a regular for Galway. He's a modern type of footballer. He can score off left and right. He's an engine on him up and down. You know what I mean? He can start an attack and finish it. But again, he's learning as well, and every day, and it's fantastic that he's in and around a group that is at the top level, at the the top tier, the top table of football at the minute. So the likes of him, Daniel Flaherty, another guy who's coming in making an impact. These guys are coming in, and no baggage, no, what I mean. They're coming in to try and help the team at various stages. Cal Sweeney, these guys come. These are the future of Galway, hopefully, in the next 4 or 5 years. And it takes that time, and guys need time, in my opinion, to develop into, not to be too hard on them, early on. But the panel has grown, and I think guys coming off the bench the next day, especially with the dubs, that coming down the stretch, the energy levels will need to be high, because again, it is our third week in a row now, and with injuries, and Dublin or Croke Park it'll take no prisoners. There's no hiding up there, so you'll need to be tracking runners all the time. So the use of the bench, which has been very good up to now, hopefully will be needed the next day. Yeah, definitely. But John Merrick thought was fantastic last day. I thought he was one of our best players, and he's a good foil for and Killeen out around there, and Keane Darcy, and these guys are big guys, and people talk about their big guys. These guys can run, like Darcy can run, like, you know what I mean. Paul, I suppose, is more the quarterbacky kind of, but that's what you need, a little bit of kind of a guy there that you give the ball to all the time in any team. And Paul is one of those that you give him the ball, and 99% of the time he's not going to give it away, or he's going to create something. You know what I mean? And that's important. The only thing is, now he's playing so well that he might be targeted a little bit the next day. You wouldn't know what they might do with him. You know what I mean? But look at we've got, I think, around the middle there. I think we're very, very strong with Dylan McHugh. And Liam Silk, obviously, with Sean or John Daly or Johnny Heaney, whoever's in there. I'd be talking about a group of 8 or 9 players, not just the starting. To be honest, I wouldn't be too worried about the starting. I think starting and finishing is as important. And that's not easy as a management to get that point across now, especially to more senior players. But the Scout team seems to be buying into all of that. So look at it. I'm looking forward to Sunday or to Saturday now, and seeing how it pans out.
You mentioned there at the start there was obviously a lot of noise before the game that Galway were going to beat Monaghan. Maybe some of the commentary was a bit over the top, because Monaghan are still a good side. But it's safe to say this weekend in most media outlets, and when people are previewing this game, that they aren't giving Galway a chance really this weekend. A lot of people are expecting Dublin to get the victory. Do you think the management and players can maybe go into a bit of that, of being written off?
Yeah, I don't think I need to. You know what I mean? That's they don't need to, because all these podcasts fall on that. It's not real life. That kind of way. It's not within the bubble of a group. It's talk and it's chat. That's all it is. And so within, but at the same time, we mentioned already, it does kind of seep in maybe to guys, because that'd be chatting to guys, outside of the group. But for a Monaghan game, I'd say it could seep in a little bit. But for a Dublin game, the guys are intelligent enough to know the challenges that they're facing, that we've discussed there already. Those challenges, there are so many of them within the game, within periods of the game, so those challenges are not going to go away, whether we talk about them or give them a chance or anything like that. This is going to be a hard game, right? Monaghan was a hard game as well. I'll go home with 3 or 4. Everyone is expecting that. That doesn't mean that it wasn't hard work. It's hard work, being an intercounty footballer and then being expected to, perform at a particular time. It's not easy, to get 20 odd lads performing at the highest level at it. It doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen in the Euros. It doesn't happen anywhere. So that is the challenge for Porrick and the lads. Try and maneuver that as best they can. They know best. They see the guys, the injuries, There's a lot of variables on the table. So, trying to get that right. That's the challenge. That's why Porrick is in the job, or we're all in management job. We try and to figure it out. We try and to help as much as we can. So that's what's in front of the guys. So once you start talking about that, you have no time to be listening to the likes of me talking to you or anything like that. They know what will win this game, right? But they have to kind of try and figure that out with what they have, injuries and fellas in form, fellas training, their own preferences of how they, there's a lot of variables there. So I don't think the outside noise bothers Porrick Joyce, definitely not Porrick, you know what I mean? So look, it's a huge challenge, Paul, yourself. So look, we just can wish them the best of luck, and hopefully things can go right,
Can they take a bit of confidence from Mayo getting a draw with them?
No, I don't think so. I think Galway know on any given day that we can beat Mayo, Mayo can beat us. On any given day, Galway can beat Dublin. Galway can beat Kerry. I think our guys believe that. I've worked with a lot of them coming up, and we would have instilled that in them, even from an underage. We would have beaten Dublin in a under-20 final. We would have beaten them in, challenge matches. We would have beaten Kerry's and stuff like that. So there's no problem there, right? There's no problem with that mentality. This is not the Dublin of 6 or 7 years ago, in my opinion. It's not. It's still a fantastic team, but it's not. So I don't think there's any issue there. The guys this week will be relishing the challenge, in my opinion. They will be loving it, right? But loving it with an intelligent head on them, knowing that they need to be right and they need to get their prep right all week. And that's not just players, that's management as well. And again, as I said, that is the challenge. So no, there'll be none of that sort of that's us talking in the, in the background. There'll be none of that sort of stuff. It'll be just focused on Dublin. It'll be focused on matchups, who, getting their matchups right, who's going to be marking Conor Canahan, who's going to be marking Fenton. Are we going to get someone to go on Fenton? Is John Maher going to go on Fenton? I don't know. You know what I mean? This sort of thing, you can argue the toss, and fellas will have different opinions on that. But at the end of the day, it's Porrick and the guys that will make those decisions, in the next 3 or 4 days, depending on injuries and stuff like that. The starting team, the finishing team, you know what I mean? Third quarter, do we make subs around that, 2 or 3 subs around that? Is that a dangerous game to play, making them around that? I don't know. These are the things that just off the top of my head that would scare me as a manager if I had to make them. But look, they have to go with that. So there's a lot of challenges there this week,
I suppose for the older players, they probably feel like this year can be the year for them, obviously, because some of them are maybe pushing on and they want to get that All Ireland in their hands, and with that they're going to have no fear this weekend. And it's interesting what you say there with the younger players, because even for a lot of the under-20 group there's a huge amount of them involved now, and they've beaten Dublin in a big game in Croke Park.
They would have, yeah. Look, Dublin are a good team. You know what I mean? You can look back and at games, and you can get confidence out of them, or you can get fear out of them, whatever you want. It's up to yourself. Again, that's the strong mentality, is looking forward, not looking back as such. You know what I mean? So there'll be no fear. Definitely no fear. And there'll be definitely no fear from Porrick Joyce. There never is. You know what I mean? So that won't be an issue. You know what I mean? If we go out and we beat Dublin, great. If we lose to Dublin, it won't be from lack of trying. There won't be fear or anything like that. It'll be things that 1 or 2 things went wrong, maybe, or maybe a few matchups that might have, geez, if we did this, that's always going to be the case. But Galway will be well prepared. There'll be no stone left unturned as regards thinking about the game and trying to break it down into scenarios where they think they might be able to, make hay with matchups and stuff like that. So, and individual players need to perform on the day. There's going to be guys the next day that'll play well, that we don't know of, maybe, you know what I mean? So, we're talking about Rob Finnerty's and John Mars and Paul Conroy's at the minute. It could be a Matty Tierney, could be put in full forward for a while the next day, for a high ball, as we would have done ourselves, and stuff like that, because he's a fantastic pair of hands on him. It could be something like that. That's kind of Callan does for Dublin. anything like that, just to think outside the box, stuff like that. Damien Comer coming on, or starting, I don't know, whatever, Chaine, I don't know whatever state he's, so there's a lot of stuff that you have to try, but you have to go with it. They'll go with whatever they come up with in the next couple of days. And it might be somebody like that might make a run. Dylan McHugh, who I think is playing absolutely fantastic. His incisive runs he could come on the end of, off the shoulder in for a goal. Wouldn't that be great in Croke Park? Or, Liam Silk, who pops up there, or Johnny Heaney's and these guys pops up for goals. So we probably need a couple of those, maybe, to give us that energy. Remember, we're playing third week in a row too. So energy levels will be important as well, not to have those drop at times, and we have to keep an eye on that as well. So look, I think if we keep goals out and maybe get one or two up the other end, that would definitely go a long way in getting us over the line on Saturday.
Is mentally where the work is probably needs to be done most this weekend, just obviously because you're going to have a Dublin crowd here that are going to be loud and they're going to obviously get behind this team. Like it's obviously you don't fear playing Dublin and Croke Park, but like there is stages where it's going to be a bit difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's both. I suppose the physical part, obviously, from recovery, and that is huge. So a lot of, I suppose, will go into that as opposed to the mental part of it. But I'm sure it'll be touched on, and they have their mental coaches and stuff like that to help out. But again, they have been there in these big matches, Paul, as well, which between underage and they've been the majority of them into a senior final. You know what I mean? And they played, so. Like this Galway panel is not just kind of turned up in the last year or two. Like it's been, on the road for underage a lot. A lot of them have played minor finals and 20 finals and senior finals. You know what I mean? So to be writing off Galway, in my opinion, is yes, we have a little bit of injuries. Yes, it's 3 weeks in a row, and that statistically they think, I don't think they, that's good from last year that the teams coming through, usually get through. But look at Galway are there, and I think we're in good nick. We've a lot of guys back. Sean is another game under his belt. I'm not sure how he is injury wise. So we have a lot of quality, and Dublin won't be delighted that they would have got Galway in that draw, in my opinion, because they'd have a healthy respect for us, and they would know, because they know their football. They would know that we would have guns that can hurt them, not just the Shane Walshes, not just the Damien Comer. They know that we have a lot of good players, and they will need to be on their best game the next day, I think, if to get over the line, and they'll know that. And so hopefully, Paul, now we can rattle them.
Just before we do finish, just the last word on it. Obviously, we're going to have it for listeners too. We'll have another preview of this Galway Dublin game during the week with matchups and different bits and pieces. But Donal, can we beat Dublin and reach the All Ireland semi-final at the weekend?
Absolutely, Paul. Definitely, I think we can. There's no question about that. No question about that whatsoever.
And if we are to just turn them over, why do you think it'll be?
Again, not to be repeating myself, but I don't think you can just say one or two things and people will say that. I think coming from a management perspective, you know what I mean? We need to get a lot of things right. You know what I mean? We need to get our starting team and then finishing teams and our kind of subs that make an impact. I think that's important, especially with the 3 week break. Our structure at the back, I think we've been very good. Our structure at the back is very, now Croke Park's a different challenge, more spaces. Dublin obviously are, the best at unlocking and all that sort of stuff, defences. But I think if we get our matchup, right, when I say matchups right, we can all pick a matchup and say, yeah, we all agree with it. But again, that player has to perform, you know what I mean, as well. And that's a bit of luck in that. It's a collective thing as well. You can't be kind of picking out individuals and say if they don't play well the rest of it. We have to collectively, I think, play very well the next day. There'll be no break. Dublin are going to come, I think, and all the guys that went straight into the quarterfinal, they'll probably come with an energy at the beginning. You'd imagine, but it's the games are very, very long. So I think the 55. We're in this game in 55, 56 minutes. That's where the winning of it will be for Galway. If we can get our finishing team right and have the right guys on the pitch, at the kind of 62, 63 minutes, you know what I mean? I think then then we have a fantastic chance of winning this game, because that's where Dublin win a lot of their games. You know what I mean? Coming down the stretch there, and we talked about experience and maturity, and then Dublin have that in abundance, and for obvious reasons. So look, there's a lot of things we need to get right, but I wouldn't buy into the talk that Dublin are odds-on favourites. I don't think Dublin, even speaking honestly, I know speaking publicly, they say obviously it's going to be a hard game and all that, but even honestly, they would be saying, look, at these guys can hurt us if we're not right, and they know that, and we know that as well. So hopefully we can hurt them, and but it's a big ask in 3 weeks. 3 games in 3 weeks, so it's a huge challenge, Paul.